Bitcoin wins. Arguably the biggest news in the history of Bitcoin. El Salvador has officially adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, and now the dominoes seem to be starting to fall in South America. We're going to take a look at this news and all of the other news driving markets, as well as the Bitcoin chart. You don't want to miss this one. Stay tuned. What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Please, before we get started, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that like button right down below. As I mentioned, the big news, obviously, which stemmed from the Miami Bitcoin conference this weekend, is that El Salvador was intending to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. Well, now that law has passed by a supermajority and it is happening, and we're seeing a lot of interest around other South American companies to do the same. But first, before we dig into that and the rest of the news, I'm going to take a look at the Bitcoin chart because it has changed a bit since yesterday and has had a bit of a nice bounce today and is showing some encouraging signs of a potential, at least temporary, reversal, although it's too early by far to get excited about calling any macro reversals. First, let's take a look at the weekly chart, which I've mentioned quite a few times. We have the red Fibonacci levels from down at the 9,800 lows back in September. And of course, the black Fibonacci levels going all the way back to the Bitcoin crash of March 2020 when price was below $4,000. As you can see on the red, we once again exactly tapped the 61.8% Fibonacci level on the dip yesterday, which is a magic level for Bitcoin and other assets. That's where you look for a bounce to continue up after a drop. It also works the other way when you're on your way down, but that is called the golden pocket between the 61.8% and 65% retracement levels. Very encouraging to see that bounce at 30,855 yesterday, above the key 30,000 level that so many people are watching and talking about. We also have the 50 MA here on the weekly around 29,274.93, which has not been tested in a very long time and tends to get front run with wicks just like these. Also, we do have a slightly higher low here for now on the weekly, with the lows before it around $30,031 and this one around $30,855. So there is a bit of encouragement here on the weekly chart. Also, as I've discussed a number of times, we have these two candles here, which look a bit like inverted hammers. Now, people generally tend to take a look at candles like this with long wicks up and think that they're bearish, but they're only bearish when they're at the top, actually. When they're at the bottom, these can be considered bullish reversal signs, potentially, because you have this long wick up, which means that sellers have continued to try to advance price down. They've not been able to, and buyers were able to make some advances during those periods, meaning there's a ton of buying interest here, and sellers are potentially exhausted because they're unable to push price down further, hence these small bodies. And now, very early, it's only Wednesday with the weekly closing on Sunday, we do have a potential actual hammer candle, but we have to watch and see what happens throughout the rest of the week. That's this long wick down and a small body up. That would be a nice reversal sign as well. Either way, none of these three candles technically are looking bearish on the weekly chart. Let's go into the daily. Now look, this was the pennant symmetrical triangle we were all watching, completely invalid, obviously, clearly not relevant anymore. But what is interesting is that still was support and was broken, and this still is resistance, and we are coming into that area. So we have a lot of strong resistance here. If you were still watching those trend lines from the pennant, you could honestly now adjust this line to right here and say, hey, that's the resistance. That's the signal that we will likely have a reversal if it heads up above that line. But it is interesting on the daily. I talked about this yesterday. We do have this beautiful hammer candle, long wick down, nice little body here. And now we are seeing some bullish follow through. We want to see more volume on this candle by the end of the day, and we definitely want to see it closing up here or higher. Ideally, we'd really like to be getting above 35, 36,000 and engulfing this bearish candle right before. But still, this is encouraging because a green, or gray in my case, candle after a hammer like that would theoretically be confirmation of a reversal, at least in the short term. Once again, there's nothing to talk about until this gets above 42,000. The trend is bearish and needs to get back above that level. Now, we talked about this yesterday, potential bullish divergence on the daily chart. Well, now it looks likely to confirm. Yesterday it did not. We did not get the clear elbow in RSI. Right now we do have a clear move up, but we need to see how it closed at the end of the day, and there's 11 hours left as I'm recording this. So it's still a question mark. We don't know if it will confirm. And of course, eventually we're going to need to get above these highs, right? this 39,000 level, this 40,000, around 41,000, because otherwise we're going to end up with more hidden bearish divergence, which is continuation. This shows a lot of indecision right now. Bull div, hidden bear div, bull div, hidden bear div, maybe a bull div, but then we need to do it again without that hidden bear div to cancel the bullish divergence. So we will see what happens, but right now this is very encouraging on the daily chart. Now, as I mentioned in a video yesterday, everyone was screaming about an Ethereum MACD bearish cross. That was the first time Ethereum had that. Well, on the daily chart here for Bitcoin, we had a bullish cross on the MACD indicator. If it's one that you use, that's when this blue line crosses up, the shorter moving average over the longer moving average. And we also had the histogram go positive, right? When it's negative down here, it's bearish. When it moves up into positive territory, it's positive. And now it looks like it's likely bouncing and may not cross again. This is very encouraging. And even if it does make another low, we would obviously probably get a bullish divergence on that indicator. And I'm going to guess, I haven't even looked, but I'm going to guess if we shorten this, that we probably have bullish divergence already on lower timeframes. And we do. If you look at this low, now remember, when you measure bullish divergences, you do it from candle closes. You don't generally use wicks. So this was a lower low. This is a much higher low. And we have a potential bullish cross again here on the 6 hour. Let's look at the 4 hour. I haven't looked at this either. Same thing. Same thing. Lower low on price, much higher lows on the indicator here. So MACD is also crossing bullish on the 4 hour and going positive. So a lot of things to like there if you are someone who trades MACD as an indicator. Now that we're on the 4 hour, let's take a look at this 4 hour chart here. As I said, we've been in this red range, nothing happening, nothing doing. We lost the EQ, went down here. Now we did not sweep the lows as I was talking about yesterday, which would have been a drop probably below 30,000 with a wick. Still could absolutely definitely happen. But we did sweep the lows of this candle from back on May 23rd, which is interesting, right? Slightly below. That is still considered a bullish SFP when it breaks a swing low and closes above, and we saw movement above. We have the 50 MA here, which will be resistance, and the EQ of this channel. So this is really now around 35,872, 36,000, that area. Now that's really the next resistance we have to clear. This move, you would have anticipated a move back to 35, 36, but getting above that now is going to require some real buying interest and some volume. So we have a nice little bounce. For now, we can't call it more than just a reaction. Nothing really showing a clear reversal sign, but we are seeing signals this could potentially continue up higher. Now let's dig into the news. The first story, El Salvador is first to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. They have a 39-year-old president. He obviously gets it. Jack Mallers from Strike is the one who sort of brokered the deal and figured out how to get it done. Well, it did not take very long for El Salvador to go ahead and pass this law. Bitcoin is now legal tender in El Salvador. Some would say that's because that this leader controls the entire government, which could be construed as a bad thing, but I am not deeply knowledgeable of the politics of El Salvador, so I will take the win and say, hey, it is great that this guy made this happen. I guess the real question then is who's next? Well, we've seen interest from Paraguay. We're seeing politicians from Panama, Brazil, all talking about it, and Paraguay has already said that they have an impending announcement. So it does look like the dominoes are just going to fall in Central and South America, and this is how you get the spark. Imagine if other countries start to view Bitcoin as legal tender. The tax implications of it are incredible. Viewing it as a currency, the amount of people that it could bring to El Salvador, to their government, remittances. There are so many reasons to use Bitcoin as legal tender in a country, and the implications are very bullish. Very, very bullish. On to the next story. I should have bought a lot more, laments billionaire investor in Bitcoin. The probability as more and more people keep using Bitcoin, it's going to keep moving up, said Mark Lasry. Mark Lasry is the co-founder and CEO of Avenue Capital Group, and he believes that despite recent volatility in the crypto market, it likely isn't going away. I love that we still have the it could go to zero narrative, even after it went all the way to 65,000 from 40,000, and has the Lindy effect. Obviously, the longer an asset exists, the more likely it is to remain in existence. I think the arguments that Bitcoin is going to zero at this point are absurd and completely emotional, but it's interesting to still see that narrative even mentioned. Here's what he said about it. Once a market is created, it's there, said Lasry. The probability as more and more people keep using Bitcoin, it's going to keep moving up. It's happened a little bit quicker than I thought it would. I should have bought a lot more. That was my mistake, because this guy was talking about it back in 2017, 2018, when it was at much, much lower prices. But it's always encouraging to see a billionaire say, I need more Bitcoin. Reports suggest BlockFi seeks to raise millions at a valuation of $5 billion. Absolutely incredible, and looks like it's being led by a couple firms in New York and London, being Third Point Management and Hedosophia, which is based in London. You might remember that they just raised $350 million in Series D earlier this year. So they're raising more money. This just shows that they are absolutely committed. They have no fear that this market is bad and believe that they will continue to make so much money moving forward in the future. So I would say it's very bullish to see companies like BlockFi continuing to raise money at massive valuations like $5 billion. And once again, another one, Gemini acquires crypto custody startup Shard X. Just another example of a big company and a big name in the space going all in and continuing to build regardless of what the price is. This is Gemini's third acquisition after NFT marketplace Nifty Gateway and crypto credit card firm Blockrise. Now, what I think is so cool here, I just interviewed Duncan and Griffin Cockfoster from Nifty Gateway. They had so many positive things to say about Gemini, and that's going to be an incredible conversation, about 70 minutes only on NFTs. These guys are absolutely brilliant. They love the Gemini team, and it's encouraging to see Gemini continuing to build and to acquire companies that help build in the space. MicroStrategy sees $1.6 billion in interest for junk bond deal. Absolutely incredible. Michael Saylor tweeted that MicroStrategy was raising $400 million more in debt just to buy Bitcoin. And they had $1.6 billion in interest. It looks like they're going to take about $500 million. Michael Saylor, what a giga chad, continuing to just buy more Bitcoin. But it's really interesting and encouraging to see $1.6 billion in interest, and a lot of that apparently coming from hedge funds. Now, a really interesting report, because we always hear the narrative that Bitcoin is only used by criminals and terrorists, but we know that far less than 1% of all Bitcoin transactions are actually used for any purpose like this. But apparently, Hamas tapped Binance to launder Bitcoin donations, blockchain data suggests. Seems like a big headline, but it was only about $100,000. They sent it to Binance, and Binance locked those wallets. So not much to see here. $100,000 is not very much in financing, but still always interesting to acknowledge the fact that yes, Bitcoin sometimes does make it easier for terrorist organizations, rogue nations, criminals to do business, even though it's on a public blockchain. And of course, we have to put in some bearish news, because yesterday it was all bearish analysis. Now we have some more positive news. But Bloomberg, Bitcoin fall has strategists eyeing possible drop to 20,000. Wanda, Evercore, tall back and warn about key downside level. Cryptocurrencies struggling to recover from a rout in May. Basically, they're saying that 30,000 is a key level emotionally, psychologically, and that people watching, they think that if it breaks 30,000, there will be a massive sell-off that could take price down to 20,000. I can only tell you that if that happens, I will be buying the hell out of that dip. That is all of the news and charts for today. I have Chartapalooza today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'm going to be taking requests from all of my paid newsletter subscribers. Any chart that they want me to look at, I will be looking at live on YouTube. So please check that out. And if you want to subscribe to the newsletter right now, you can do that below, and then you'll be able to make requests for any future Wednesday live stream. Also check out my sponsor, Femex. They are amazing. And until 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, peace.